The stars stretched endlessly, a canvas of glittering lights against the infinite black. Standing on the bridge of the TCS Resolute, Captain Elias Morgan stared at the void, his jaw expression dour. The reports from Celestine Prime had been sparse, until they stopped altogether. Now the colony's silence was a weight pressing down on his chest. Behind him, Lieutenant Kai Tenner's voice broke through the quiet hum of the ship's systems. "Captain, we're entering the Celestine system. Long-range sensors are active. No sign of activity yet." Ash nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Keep scanning, Lieutenant. I want a full sweep of the system. Let's find out what happened to our people." The Resolute slid into orbit around the barren moon of Celestine Prime. The lush green planet below, once teeming with life and industry, now appeared ominously dark. Kai's voice grew tense. "Sir, we're detecting faint energy signatures, but they're scattered. No centralized source. And no life signs." Ash turned, his piercing blue eyes locking onto his tactical officer. "No life signs? Not even animal readings?" Kai shook his head. "It's strange. It's like something wiped the surface clean. The energy signatures could be residual, but—" "Residual from what?" Ash asked, his voice a low rumble. Kai hesitated. "I don't know. Whatever it is, it's not natural." Chief Engineer Miles Harlow stepped onto the bridge, wiping grease-stained hands on his jumpsuit. "Captain, I've been looking at the sensor logs. There's something off about this. The scatter pattern of those energy readings isn't random. It's coordinated. Almost like—" "Like what?" Ash pressed. Miles sighed. "Like a deliberate sweep. Something hit this planet, and it wasn't a natural disaster." Ash's gut tightened. "Bring us into low orbit. I want a closer look." The Resolute descended, its powerful engines humming as it slipped through the thin upper atmosphere. The sight below was chilling. Cities were reduced to smoldering ruins, their once bustling streets now empty husks. No bodies, no signs of struggle. Just silence. "Captain," Kai's voice trembled, "I've got something on the scanners. Movement. Small, fast, and it's heading our way." Ash straightened. "Battle stations. Shields to full. Miles, what are we dealing with?" Miles bent over his console. "It's not a ship. It's drones, maybe. They're metallic, angular. Definitely not Union tech." The first object broke through the clouds, a sleek, predatory shape glinting in the sunlight. It was followed by dozens more, moving in perfect unison. "Contact and visual range," Kai reported. "All hands, brace for impact," Ash ordered. The drones swarmed, their formation shifting fluidly as they closed in. The Resolute's turrets roared to life, spitting streams of fire into the oncoming wave. Explosions peppered the sky as drones disintegrated, but more took their place. "Shields holding," Kai called out, "but they're focusing on our engines." Ash's mind raced. The drones weren't behaving like ordinary combatants. Their movements were precise, almost surgical, targeting the Resolute's vulnerabilities. "Miles, give me options," Ash barked. The engineer frowned. "If they take out our engines, we're dead in the water. We need to disable their command unit, but I don't see one." Ash's teeth pressed tightly against one another. "Then we make one. Kai, launch a decoy probe. Make it look like a weak point." Kai grinned, baiting the fish. "On it." The probe shot out, its signal mimicking a critical system failure. The drones veered toward it, their formation tightening. "Fire everything we've got," Ash commanded. The Resolute's weapons unleashed a devastating barrage. The sky lit up with fiery explosions as the drones were torn apart. But even as the last one fell, Ash felt no relief. Damage report, he demanded. Minimal, Miles replied, though his tone was grim. But Captain, I don't think this was an attack. They could have flown right under our shields if they wanted to, but they didn't. It's like they were testing us. Ash turned sharply. A test? Miles nodded. Those drones weren't trying to destroy us. They were gathering data, testing our capabilities. The weight in Ash's chest grew heavier. Then who sent them? Before anyone could answer, Kai's console beeped urgently. Sir, I'm picking up a faint signal. It's coming from the planet's surface. A survivor? Ash asked. Kai frowned. It's weak, but it's human. Broadcasting on an old emergency frequency. Set a course, Ash ordered. We are bringing them in. The surface of Celestine Prime was a graveyard of soot and metal. The landing party, led by Ash, moved cautiously through the ruins, their weapons drawn. The signal led them to a collapsed building, its structure barely holding together. Inside, they found a makeshift bunker. A lone figure emerged, disheveled and pale, but alive. Thank God, the man whispered. I thought I was the only one left. Ash stepped forward. Captain Elias Morgan, TCS Resolute. What happened here? The man, who introduced himself as Dr. Anton Vrel, shook his head. It's them. The Ravagers. They came out of nowhere. We tried to fight, but... His voice broke. They don't just destroy. They consume. Consume? Kai asked, his brow furrowing. Dr. Vrel nodded. They're cybernetic. They assimilate everything. Biological, technological. It doesn't matter. They absorb it into their collective. Ash's stomach churned. How did you survive? I was in the lab, Vrel explained. We managed to shield part of the facility before they found us, but they left drones behind, watching, waiting. I've been hiding ever since. Why would they leave? Miles asked. Vrel's eyes darkened. Because they don't need to stay. They've already taken what they came for. This planet is just fuel to them. Ash's calm crackled. Captain, a voice from the Resolute called. We've got a problem. More drones inbound, and they're bringing friends. Time to move, Ash ordered. The escape was a blur of gunfire and explosions. The drones pursued relentlessly, their numbers growing with every passing minute. Ash and his team fought their way back to the Resolute, the ship's engines roaring to life as they broke through the atmosphere. Punch it, Ash commanded as the drones closed in. The Resolute shot into hyperspace, leaving the scorched remains of Celestine Prime behind. Back on the bridge, Ash faced his crew. The room was heavy with silence. They're not just a threat to us, he finally said. These Ravagers don't exactly strike me as the type to stop. We need to warn the Union. Kai looked at him, his young face hardened by the day's events. Do you think they'll listen? Ash's expression was grim. They'll have to. If they don't, there won't be a galaxy left to argue over. The Resolute sailed into the void, carrying with it the weight of humanity's survival and a message of impending doom. The Galactic Union Council chamber was a vast dome of gleaming metal and bioluminescent panels, a testament to the technological prowess of its member species. Representatives of dozens of worlds filled the chamber, their voices a cacophony of languages and tones. At the center, Captain Elias Morgan stood on a raised platform, his sharp blue eyes scanning the restless crowd. To his left, Lieutenant Kai Tenner shifted nervously. To his right, Dr. Anton Vrel stood, still pale but now resolute, clutching a data slate containing the damning evidence they'd brought from Celestine Prime. A voice boomed across the chamber, silencing the noise. High Chancellor Talon, a towering figure with skin like shimmering quartz, leaned forward from her podium. Her voice resonated with authority. "Captain Morgan of the Terran Confederation," she intoned. "You stand before the Council to present evidence of a supposed galactic threat. Proceed." Ash stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "Honored representatives, the data we've collected speaks for itself. The Ravagers are not a theoretical danger. They are present and growing. Celestine Prime is gone, its people and infrastructure consumed. If we don't act now, more worlds will fall." A scoff echoed from a representative with iridescent fins and narrow slitted eyes. "The Ravagers? A convenient excuse for human expansionism. Why should we risk our fleets for a species barely out of its infancy?" Kai bristled, but Ash raised a hand to calm him. "This isn't for humanity's sake," Ash said, his tone steel. "We've confirmed their pattern of assimilation. Every technological or biological resource they encounter becomes fuel for their collective. If we don't stop them, no species will be safe." The murmurs of the chamber grew louder. Talon silenced them with a raised hand. "And what do you propose, Captain?" Ash glanced at Vrel, who stepped forward and projected a hologram into the air. The spinning image of a Ravager mothership dominated the chamber. "Their ships are immense, self-replicating factories," Vrel explained. "They create drones and assimilate resources at an exponential rate. But they have weaknesses. With a coordinated response, we can push them back. Humanity is prepared to commit its fleets, but we can't do it alone." The chamber erupted in debate. Ash turned to Talon. "We don't have time for bureaucracy. Send us your best. Let us prove humanity can hold the line." Talon's crystalline features shifted, her expression unreadable. "Very well, Captain. The Union Council will deliberate. You will have your answer within the day." Hours later, back aboard the TCS Resolute, Ash paced the bridge while Kai monitored comms. The ship's crew buzzed with tension, every member aware of what hung in the balance. "Do you think they'll listen?" Kai asked finally. "They'll have to," Ash replied. "But even if they don't, we're not backing down." Miles Harlow entered, his jumpsuit still smeared with grease. "Engines are prepped, Captain. Whatever they throw at us, the Resolute's ready." Ash nodded. "Let's hope it's enough." The comms panel beeped, and Kai answered. "It's Talon," he said. "Put her through," Ash ordered. The High Chancellor's hologram flickered to life. "Captain Morgan, the Council has reached a decision. We will not commit a full fleet at this time. But a task force will accompany you to the Trisalan system to evaluate the threat." Ash frowned. "A task force won't be enough. Trisalan 5 is the next likely target. If the Ravagers hit it..." Talon raised a hand. "This is all the Council will offer. Prove your claims, Captain, and the Union will act." The hologram vanished before Ash could respond. He turned to his crew, his face only barely containing his combination of rage, disgust, and despair. "Set course for Trisalan 5, he ordered. "We're on our own." The journey to Trisalan 5 was tense. Ash spent hours poring over battle plans, while Kai worked tirelessly to coordinate with the task force, a patchwork fleet of hesitant allies. When they arrived, Trisalan 5's twin suns bathed the planet's rolling oceans in golden light. The sight was breathtaking, but the beauty was marred by the stark reality of what lay ahead. "Incoming transmission from the task force leader," Kai reported. Ash nodded, and the face of Commander Vren Locke, a reptilian Karthisk with piercing yellow eyes, appeared on the screen. "Captain Morgan," Locke hissed. You've brought us to this backwater world to chase phantoms. I hope you can justify this waste of resources. You'll have your proof soon enough, Ash replied. Deploy your ships into defensive positions. The Ravagers won't wait for us to argue. Locke sneered but complied, his ships forming a loose perimeter around the planet. The attack came as night fell on Treslin 5. The Ravagers emerged from hyperspace, their massive ships casting shadows over the planet. The task force scrambled into action, but the Ravagers' drones were swift and unrelenting. All hands to battle stations, Ash barked as the Resolute's guns roared to life. The bridge was a storm of activity. Kai did what he could to coordinate the task force, but each ship was from a different military entirely, and most of them struggled with the human command structure. Miles worked furiously to maintain the Resolute systems, cursing under his breath as alarms blared. Shields at 80%, Miles reported. These bastards don't miss. Focus fire on the lead cruiser, Ash ordered. We need to disrupt their formation. The Resolute's weapons tore into the Ravager cruiser, but for every plate of hull they melted away, drones threw themselves into the breach and patched the damage, melding into the ship as if they were made of clay. Captain, Kai called out, I've got an idea, but it's risky. Spit it out, Lieutenant. I can hack into their comm network, Kai said. If I can scramble their command signals, it might buy us some time. Ash hesitated. Do it. Miles, keep our systems stable. Kai plugged into the Ravager network, sweat beading on his brow as he worked. The bridge lights flickered as the Resolute system strained under the cybernetic assault. Come on, Kai muttered. Suddenly, the Ravager drones faltered, their formation breaking apart. It's working, Kai shouted. Ash seized the opportunity. All ships, focus fire. Take them out while they're vulnerable. The fleet rallied, their combined firepower finally overwhelming the Ravagers. The lead cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash, and the remaining ships retreated into hyperspace. The aftermath was bittersweet. Treslin 5 was safe, but the task force had suffered heavy losses. Ash stood on the bridge, his face grim. We've bought ourselves time, but this was just a skirmish. Now the Ravagers know the jig is up. They'll stop trying to be sneaky. Kai approached, his expression weary but determined. The Union can't ignore us now, Captain. We showed them that the threat is real. Ash nodded. Let's hope it's enough to unite them, because if it isn't, we're all out of time. The Resolute turned toward the stars, carrying with it the hope of a galaxy and the resolve of humanity. The Ravager's hub world loomed in the black, a Dyson sphere glimmering faintly against the star it enveloped. Its sheer scale was breathtaking, a hollow planet teeming with activity, a factory of annihilation. From the TCS Resolute, Captain Elias Morgan stared at the monstrosity on the viewpoint, a mix of awe and dread swirling in his chest. All systems green, Captain, Chief Engineer Miles Harlow reported, though his gruff tone was laced with tension. That thing looks like it eats ships for breakfast. It probably does, Ash muttered. He turned to Lieutenant Kai Tenner, who was hunched over the tactical console. What's the status of our task force? Kai opened an additional window on his console, another for the pile. The joint fleet is in position. 12 ships, mostly light cruisers. Not exactly a first-rate armada, but it'll have to do. Ash nodded, unimpressed by unfortunately forced to be accepting. It's a bigger task force than last time, at least. But the victory came at the cost of casting doubt on the strength of the threat. If a smaller number of ships could repel these invaders, the Council felt no need to send more. 12 ships against a Dyson sphere felt like a death sentence, But the information they'd gathered from Trestlin 5 left no choice. The hub world was the nerve center of the Ravagers, the core of their hive mind. Destroy it, and they'd cripple the threat. A flicker of light drew Ash's attention to the view screen as the Union's flagship hailed them. The face of Commander Vren Locke appeared, his yellow reptilian eyes glaring with disdain. "Captain Morgan," Locke hissed, "your plan better be worth the risk. My people didn't join this suicide mission for nothing." Locke and the other survivors of the initial assault are close to the only non-humans in the galaxy that truly understand the threat they're dealing with. Their testimony, however, meant little to the leaders of their various species. "It's the only chance we have, Commander," Ash replied evenly. "You have your orders. Hold the perimeter while we take a strike team into the sphere. We'll retrieve the data we need and get out before they can react." Locke's lip curled. "If you fail, don't expect us to wait around for a rescue." Ash met his glare without flinching. "We won't fail." The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in tense silence. The strike team was assembled in the Resolute's hangar. Ash, Kai, Miles, and a selection of Union specialists. Among them were a Karthisk demolition expert and a Zoom Ra scout, their alien forms bristling with advanced equipment. Kai checked his gear, his cybernetic arm whirring softly as he adjusted the interface. "You ever feel like we're the only ones in these missions who don't have extra limbs or scales?" "Speak for yourself," Miles grumbled, hoisting a bulky pack of explosives. "I've got plenty of extras." Ash smirked faintly, but his expression turned serious as the team boarded the stealth shuttle. "This is it, people. We go in, get the data, and get out. No heroics. We can't afford any mistakes." The shuttle detached from the Resolute, its cloaking shield shimmering as it approached the Dyson sphere. The surface was a latticework of metallic conduits and glowing nodes, pulsating with energy. "Entry point identified," the Zoom Ra scout reported, her dual-pupiled eyes scanning the schematics. "There's a maintenance vent here, small, but it'll get us inside." The shuttle slipped into the vent, its stealth field masking their presence. The interior of the sphere was a labyrinth of corridors and towering machinery, the hum of the Ravager activity reverberating through the walls. The team moved cautiously. Ash led the way. Miles stayed at the rear to monitor their equipment. Kai's hacking interface mapped the surrounding systems, marking potential threats. As they approached the central data core, an ominous silence fell. The air felt charged, the weight of the sphere's power pressing down on them. "We're close," Kai whispered. "This way." Suddenly, a Zoom Ra blade flashed in the dim light. Ash barely had time to react before the blade plunged into the Karthisk demolition expert's side. The alien collapsed with a guttural cry, and chaos erupted. The Zoom Ra scout turned her blade toward Kai, but Ash's sidearm barked, the shot striking true. The scout fell, her insectoid form crumpling to the floor. "What the hell was that?" Miles roared, hauling the injured Karthisk to cover. Ash's gaze hardened. "Sabotage. She must have been working for the Ravagers. But why?" Kai's hands trembled as he checked the scout's equipment. "She was transmitting our location. They know we're here." Ash grabbed his comms. "Resolute, we've been compromised. Prepare for extraction." "No can do, Captain," came the voice of the Resolute's helmsman. "We've got incoming. Ravager ships dropping out of hyperspace. The task force is holding them off, but it's getting ugly." Ash cursed under his breath. "Then we finish the mission. Miles, how bad is he?" Miles glanced at the Karthisk, who was pale and gasping. "He's not going anywhere. We've got to leave him." Ash's expression darkened, but he nodded. "We'll come back for him if we can. Let's move." The team pressed on, the corridors now alive with the buzz of approaching Ravager drones. Kai worked furiously to bypass the core security, his cybernetic arm glowing as he interfaced with the alien system. "I've almost got it," he muttered, sweat dripping down his brow. Miles planted charges around the room, muttering curses. "We better not be here when these go off." The drones closed in, their metallic forms gleaming in the dim light. Ash and Miles held them at bay, their weapons spitting fire as the enemy swarmed. "Any time now, Kai!" Ash shouted. "Got it!" Kai cried, pulling a data module free from the console. "Move!" Ash ordered. The team retreated, the charges detonating behind them in a deafening roar. The blast rocked the sphere, but the drones pursued relentlessly. The shuttle streaked out of the sphere's vent, dodging Ravager fire. On board, Kai worked to decrypt the data module, his expression growing grim as lines of alien code scrolled past. "This isn't just a command center," he said, his voice shaking. "The Ravagers aren't acting on their own. They're following a directive from something else." Ash frowned. "Something else? What does that mean?" Kai hesitated. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's ancient. Older than the Union, maybe older than any of us." The shuttle docked with the Resolute, and Ash rushed to the bridge. On the view screen, the task force was in disarray. Ravager ships outnumbered them 2-1, and that was ignoring the clouds of drones, their relentless assault breaking through the perimeter. "Commander Locke is hailing us," Kai reported. "Put him through," Ash said. Locke's face appeared, blood streaming from a gash across his forehead. "Morgan, this is a disaster. We're falling apart out here." "Hold on as long as you can," Ash said. "We have what we need, preparing to jump." "You better," Locke growled. The Resolute's engines roared to life, its FTL drive spinning up as the ship evaded Ravager fire. As they broke into hyperspace, the crew fell into an exhausted silence. In the conference room, Ash, Kai, and Miles reviewed the decrypted data. The holodisplay showed an endless stream of alien script, interspersed with images of a vast, shadowy figure, a being shrouded in machinery and light. "It's a precursor," Kai said, his voice hushed. "A remnant of a civilization that came long before us. The Ravagers are its tools, carrying out some ancient forgotten directive." Ash's face was grim. "Then this fight isn't just about survival. It's about stopping whatever this thing is before it wakes up completely." Miles grunted. "Great. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse." Ash stood, his eyes blazing with determination. "We'll take this to the Union. They need to know what we're dealing with. Whatever it takes, we'll end this. Together." The Resolute sailed into the void, its crew united by the weight of the truth they carried and the battle yet to come. The Galactic Union fleet was a vast array of ships, sleek cruisers, spiked warships, and bulbous dreadnoughts, all hovering over the binary suns of the Ordrak system. At its center, the TCS Resolute stood ready, its hull reinforced with the hybrid technology humanity had rushed into production after the Battle of Treslin V. Captain Elias Morgan stood on the Resolute's bridge, his arms crossed as he observed the fleet. The tension in the air was palpable. This was the largest armada ever assembled, yet it felt like a paltry defense against the storm they were about to face. "Status report," Ash said, his voice cutting through the uneasy silence. Miles Harlow looked up from his engineering console. "All systems are green. Engines are prepped, weapons primed. Let's hope these upgrades don't blow us up before the Ravagers do." Lieutenant Kai Tenner added, "The fleet's reporting in. Everyone's holding position, but morale is shaky. Half these crews have never seen a Ravager before." "They'll see plenty soon enough," Ash muttered. and will give them something to fight for. The hollow display at the center of the bridge flickered to life, projecting a real-time feed of the Dyson sphere. Its glowing surface pulsed ominously, surrounded by an expanding cloud of Ravager ships. The core had awakened, and the sphere's defenses were rallying for the final assault. A transmission from the flagship of Commander Vren Locke crackled through. His reptilian face appeared, tense but resolute. "Captain Morgan, the fleet is in position. Are you certain this hybrid technology will work?" "It'll work," Ash said firmly. "Focus your fire on the smaller ships. The Resolute will handle the sphere." Locke bared his fangs in a predatory grin. "Then let us see if humanity's gamble pays off." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Ash turned to his crew, his voice steady but urgent. "This is it, people. Everything we fought for leads to this moment. We stop the Ravagers here, or there won't be a galaxy left to defend." The crew's collective nod was all the affirmation Ash needed. "Take us in," he ordered. The Resolute's engines roared to life, propelling the ship toward the swarm of Ravager vessels. The rest of the fleet followed, forming a protective spearhead as the battle began. The first wave of drones hit like a tidal wave. Streams of plasma fire and kinetic projectiles filled the void as the Union fleet engaged the Ravagers. The Resolute weaved through the chaos, its advanced shielding absorbing the brunt of the enemy's assault. "Shields holding at 60%, Kai called, his fingers flying across his console. "But they're adapting fast." Miles barked a laugh. "Let them adapt. They'll never keep up with what I've got planned." "Care to share with the class, Chief?" Ash asked, keeping his tone light despite the tension. Miles grinned, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "I modified our reactor to run at controlled overload. When we hit the sphere's core, we'll dump the energy straight into their systems. If this works, it'll fry their network from the inside out. And if it doesn't, then we make one hell of a firework." Ash nodded. "Let's make it work." As the Resolute neared the Dyson sphere, the ship shuddered violently under enemy fire. Ravager cruisers swarmed, their tentacle-like appendages lashing out with energy blasts. "Focus fire on the closest cruiser," Ash commanded. The Resolute's railguns fired in synchronized bursts, punching through the Ravager's ship's hull. It exploded in a blinding flash, clearing the path to the sphere. "We've got a breach," Kai reported, "routing us to the core." The Resolute dove into the sphere's surface, navigating a maze of conduits and glowing nodes. The interior was a pulsating web of energy, the heart of the Ravager hive mind. "Drones inbound!" Kai shouted. The ship's point defense systems lit up, shredding the oncoming drones with precision fire. Miles worked furiously to maintain the shields, his muttered curses a constant undercurrent. "Almost there," Kai said, his voice tight. The core came into view, a massive glowing orb suspended in a lattice of mechanical tendrils. It pulsed with an otherworldly rhythm, the sheer power radiating from it making the air in the ship feel electric. Miles said grimly, "Time to deliver the payload." Ash turned to his crew. "This is it. Kai, prep the data upload. Miles, get the reactor ready." The ship's alarms blared as more drones swarmed in, their attacks hammering the Resolute's hull. "Shields at 20%, Kai warned. "Miles," Ash barked. "Almost there," Miles snapped, sweat pouring down his face. The reactor surged, its energy redirected in a concentrated burst aimed at the core. The Resolute's weapons fired simultaneously, the combined force slamming into the orb. The core's glow intensified, then flickered. The tendrils writhed violently, and the sphere trembled as the Ravager network faltered. "It's working!" Kai shouted. Their systems are collapsing! But the victory was short-lived. The core flared with one final pulse, sending a shockwave through the sphere. The Resolute was flung back, its systems sparking under the strain. Reactor's critical, Miles yelled. Ash gritted his teeth. Kai, get us out of here! The Resolute's engines roared to life, propelling the ship out of the sphere just as it began to implode. The Dyson sphere collapsed inward, its energy consuming the surrounding Ravager fleet in a blinding cascade of destruction. As the Resolute drifted in the aftermath of the explosion, the bridge was eerily silent. Ash surveyed his crew, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and relief. Status? He asked. Miles let out a shaky laugh. We're alive. Barely. Kai added, The fleet's reporting in. The Ravagers, they're gone. The network's down. We did it. Ash exhaled, the weight of the battle finally lifting. We didn't just win a fight. We saved the galaxy. In the days that followed, the Union fleet began the long process of recovery. The cost had been high. Dozens of ships lost, thousands of lives sacrificed. But the Ravager threat was no more. Ash stood on the Resolute's observation deck, staring out at the stars. Kai joined him, his youthful face somber. You really think it's over? Kai asked. Ash was silent for a moment. For now. But there's always something out there. We'll be ready for it. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a reminder of the challenges yet to come. But for now, humanity has proven its place among them, a beacon of hope in a galaxy reborn.